Hey, guys and girls, welcome to a brand new monthly show, which is going to be me and some guests talking about what we've been watching for the last month in the world of film and TV. We don't have an official title yet, so please let us know in the comments what you want it to be called. But for now, it's just going to be called something like what we've been watching the last month thingy. Something like that for now. Very casual. And the idea is that I'll have a different guest each time and I will rotate them after a few times. And we each talk about some of the things we've been watching for the last month. So this first one will be for August, the month just gone. And feel free to post your picks and react to some of ours in the comments as well. So my guests on the first one is going to be Melanie and Emily from the Yellowjackets Hive Podcast, who, there you go, I have collaborated with in the past, but it's good to be doing this again. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us, Keith. Nice to see you again.
I'm mostly focused on TV, so that's fine. But I'll just sneak some films in at the end. But yeah, I have quite a few TV shows to talk about as well, and I know you guys do. So we'll try and get a conversation going. That's the plan. So
we love to talk. So
absolutely, we could be here all night. Just warning you guys, there's no limits. Drew straws off air, and I guess Emily drew the short straw, I should say. So she's going to go first. And then we're going to react to some of hers and vice versa. And we'll start. So, Emily, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, some of these shows I'm watching because they were recommended to me by Melanie. So, I think she might have also watched some of these for the month too. But I'll start off with the first one based on a true story. That one is a show on NBC's Peacock, and it focuses on a couple who they meet a man who becomes their plumber, and they learn that their plumber is a serial killer, and they decide that they want to do a podcast with the serial killer on the podcast, and it's kind of just like their adventure in creating it and working together with this serial killer. And I mean, I love it. I think it's great. It's about murder and podcast, which are two of my favorite things. So I've really enjoyed it so far. I'm not all the way finished. I have a couple episodes left. I know Melanie watched the whole thing, but
yes,
it was good. I mean, it's been good. And I thank you for the recommendation.
You're welcome. I've got to say, Kaylee Cuoco was hilarious in the show. I, of course, love her from The Big Bang and The Flight Attendant. Only season 1, though. Did not love season 2. But
I've only watched season 1. I haven't watched season 2 yet.
Don't waste your time. I didn't even finish it. But yeah, she's hilarious. And Chris Messina and the guy who plays the serial killer, his name is escaping me at the moment, but he's also smoking hot, which I really appreciated. So that was a nice little bonus from based on a true story.
I love the husband. I think the husband is my favorite.
He's great. He plays a good, like, middle-aged guy going through some middle-aged things. And I appreciated that aspect of the story myself. So it was cute.
Yeah,
what else
Chris
I've been watching?
He's a fantastic actor.
He is.
I always enjoyed him. He never seems to age.
I've never seen him before. I don't think I've ever seen him before.
He's like in the Mindy Project. He's in 6 Feet Under. He was in the final season of that.
Oh, 6 Feet Under. That's right. I forgot he was in that. Yes. Yeah. Oh, good call.
So, lots of small roles. He's in like Sharp Objects. Really good actor.
Oh, yes.
Sharp Objects.
Yes, I watched Sharp Objects, so I have seen him before.
That's a good one. That's HBO, right? I think.
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah, based on like Gillian Flynn novel. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good.
That was a really good one.
Series. Yeah.
It was. I forgot he was in that too.
What else? I'm also watching Only Murders in the Building, which I know is another one that Melanie is watching too. And if you're not familiar with the show, it's about a group of people who live in an apartment building in New York City. And in the first and second season, well, actually, no, in the third season too, in all the seasons so far, there's been a murder within the apartment building. And it's two old men and a 20-something-year-old girl who all get together and they create a podcast to try and solve the murders within the building. And they become like investigators, and it's like their adventures, and I absolutely love it. I've loved it from the beginning. I know Melanie isn't as much of a fan of this latest season. The last episode was a little slow, I will admit, but
that's what
I've loved it. I've loved Meryl Streep. I thought she's been great because Meryl Streep and Paul Rudd are both in the latest season, which they're both great additions. I mean, it has Steve Martin and what's his name?
Martin
Short. Yes.
Yep. And Selena Gomez. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's got a great cast. And like Jane Lynch, like I love her in the show. I think she's great too. They've had plenty of like guest stars that have been really good.
Tina Fey came back this season too, which I wasn't expecting and actually really appreciated as well. I think she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's always good to see her. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. She was so good in the second season.
30 Rock, one of my favorite sitcoms.
Love 30 Rock. That. Oh my God. Yeah, it's good. Really it's good. Worth like a background TV watch because you don't have to fully pay attention, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah,
it's very smart. Yeah.
Very smart. Yeah.
What else? I'm also currently watching The Bear, which is on FX. Mm-hmm. This one is about a guy who he takes over a restaurant that was owned by his brother after his brother commits suicide. And it's just like the ins and outs of running the restaurant and like what happens. It's like a comedy, but it's also a drama at the same time. And I really like how they strike the balance there because it's like the perfect balance of both. Like there could be something super dramatic, but they will pile some kind of comedy on top of it, so it's not super heavy. It's a great show. Like I'm only on season 1. I know Melanie's watched the whole show, but I love Jeremy Allen White. He was also in Shameless, which was another one of my absolute favorite shows of all time. He was my favorite character on Shameless, so I really, really love The Bear.
Lip on Shameless was amazing, and they both are Chicago-based shows too. And I mean, let's face it, Jeremy Allen White, also super hot. Do not mind watching him on screen at any time.
I agree. He's definitely
a good episode for that then. There's already been 2 highs.
I know, right? Oh my God. Lots of hot dudes on the screens these days.
I did watch a movie. I told Melanie this earlier. I didn't put a picture in there for this, but I did watch a movie the other night that was kind of random. I watched, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Keith, White Man Can't Jump with Woody Harrelson.
Oh yeah.
Classic.
And Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, years ago.
I know that's a really old movie, but it was on TV and I watched it and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
I'm due a rewatch, but I remember it being fun. They had good chemistry.
They really do.
I remember it.
They really did. Yeah.
Cool.
So I have watched a movie, but yes, I'm definitely more of a TV person than a movie person.
No worries.
Same.
So that's about it for me as of now. And Yellowjackets. I've been watching Yellowjackets as well. Rewatching Yellowjackets for our season 1 rewatch that we're doing on the podcast, which has been really fun.
Yes.
I mean, I've rewatched it like so many times at this point, but one more time won't hurt.
No, it will not. I have a question for you about an upcoming show, you guys, both of you. Kim Kardashian is going to be on season 12 of American Horror Story, and the series has had a lot of ups and downs. It's an anthology. Some are definitely better than others. But I wrote an article, Will Kim Kardashian Ruin American Horror Story or Surprise Us? It's on cordcutting.com. It actually just dropped today. And I have mixed feelings about it. I don't know if I buy her being on American Horror Story. And I'm curious, Emily, I know you've watched it. Will you watch it given that she's on it? Do you think that'll sway you? You'll give it a try? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the trailer made it seem like maybe she won't be that bad. I don't know.
The trailer did look good. It was creepy.
Yeah.
And there are returning cast members like Emma Roberts and Billy Lord.
Emma Roberts will be great. She was great in Coven, because Coven is one of my favorites. And she was great in that season. And she's been in others, but Coven was definitely my favorite that she's been in. I really liked Apocalypse. I know Apocalypse wasn't a lot of people's favorites, but I really enjoyed it, and I liked her in Apocalypse too.
I didn't mind Apocalypse. I liked how they actually crossed over the Coven and Apocalypse worlds, and they kind of united together.
That's why I liked it so much.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Same.
I do have a sort of a take on this, which is, apart from the fact that I'm expecting her to be pretty bad, I think it's sometimes a slippery path to cast someone who's too well known in that sort of show. Like, I think it can be too distracting. Like, you almost want that sort of show to be more of a cult style show. And I think sometimes the celebrity can take over too much. So that's
I agree.
My feeling.
They've really pushed it heavily using her image. I mean, every single promotional poster, a good portion of the trailer. I mean, Emma Roberts is featured too, but they're definitely using Kim's notoriety to promote the show. Like, 100%.
I think they might be doing that just because the last season, like, didn't get the ratings that they wanted it to get. I don't think.
I couldn't even finish the last season. It just was not good. Not my favorite.
No, I was not into it at all.
Yeah.
I do like Emma Roberts, though.
I like Emma Roberts, too.
As a horror fan, she was really good she was in the 4th Scream movie.
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's enjoyable.
I love the Scream movies. They're like one of my favorite franchises.
And Scream Queens, too. She's in Scream Queens, which I haven't watched the whole thing of, but that looks to be a pretty decent show, too.
Yeah.
So she's clearly embraced that kind of, like, Scream Queen type moniker. She obviously enjoys that.
It works.
Yeah. Over to me for some TV. I'll sort of do the films at the end, but so I'll start off with a couple of Star Trek shows I've been watching, because I am a big Trek fan. And there you go, Voyager, the first one. So some of these I'm watching for the first time because I didn't catch them when they were on originally. So Star Trek Voyager is one, and it comes on the back of my Deep Space Nine watch through, which was a full watch for the first time. And I love Deep Space Nine. So Deep Space Nine definitely has a reputation for being maybe the best Trek show with a lot of fans. And by comparison, Voyager has a bit of a weird sort of like place for Trek fans. Like, it's very hit and miss for many of them. It has a dark premise, which certainly from what I've seen and from what I've heard from other people, they don't quite follow through on, which I think is a little bit disappointing, because the setup is them, like, the crew of this new ship, and there's some familiar faces, but they get stranded on the way back from the Badlands, so they're essentially in that sort of area. So there is, like, potentially a lot of dark stuff in there, and like the first few episodes are pretty dark. Like, they do go to some pretty tense, dark places, and you do get episodes like that. But I've just started on season 3 actually tonight, and I would say it's a fun show. Like, it's a watchable Trek show without being, like, amazing. Like, there's definitely episodes that are very strong. There's some interesting guest stars. I mean, Trek shows always have good guest stars. Like, Brad DeWitt is in it for a few episodes, and he leaves an impression. Like, he plays this character who's sort of starts off as a criminal, and there's an episode with him and, like, the Vulcan on the crew, Tuvok, where they initially think Tuvok might have committed this crime. It turns out to be this guy. But then they kind of do this mind mold thing where, like, the Brad DeWitt character manipulates him into almost becoming like him, essentially. So it's a whole standoff between them. But then by the end of the episode, like, the Dorif character has sort of turned around, and then you get a few more episodes with him where he has a little bit of a redemption arc, and I think that's a really great role for Brad to whiff. And like, I would say most of the characters I quite enjoy. I think they're solid enough. There's some I don't like, but there's a good few I do like. Like Captain Janeway, I think, is a solid captain. Obviously, first female captain on the Trek show, so that was a little bit of a landmark.
Nice.
And the Doctor, the hologram Doctor, I think is really good, played by Robert Picardo, who was he was the Kell boy in Inner Space, if you remember that movie. And
no, I do not.
Okay, I would recommend that one. That's pretty fun, 80s sci-fi adventure. But yeah, he's in it as the holographic Doctor, and you've got, as always with Trek, a pretty diverse cast. So yeah, it's sort of quite a light-hearted Trek. Like, it doesn't really get that dark at times. It almost feels like quirky, like monster of the week B movie. It probably leans a bit more into the camp, a bit like the 60s show and like earlier Trek, rather than like being that serious. But there's some interesting ideas in there. Like, so it's a solid show. Like, I can definitely watch it quite easily. I can see why it has a bit of a mixed reputation.
Yeah.
That's Voyager. Are you guys big into Trek? Have you seen much Trek?
I'm not a Trekkie. Not a Trekkie.
Okay.
I used to watch a little back when I was younger because my parents would watch it, but I have not watched any of the newer ones or the movies or anything. So
I watched one of the movies with Chris Pine in it, but that's about as far as I've gone.
Chris Pine. There's another one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Captain Kirk as well. Or playing a version of Kirk.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. No, that's fine. It's one of those, it's very niche, isn't it? It's either your thing or it isn't really. Fine. Okay, so I also been watching Strange New World, so that's a modern Trek, and they just had season 2. And I won't talk too much about it because I do review that on the channel, so people can check out the reviews. But like, I think it is the best of the modern Trek shows, and I think it is because they get that balance of it being really good nostalgic Trek, which sings to a lot of hardcore Trek fans, and having the kind of stories which they enjoy in classic Trek. But at the same time, it does its own thing. So I think it's got a good balance where it does update those stories as well. Yeah. And the characters are really good for the most part. They return to the kind of episode by episode type format, which the older shows would have had. But what they do is they use each episode to focus on one particular character. So you kind of get character growth in that episode by doing that. And like, it is a little bit serialized. You will get returning themes and stories, but like, it's like 10 episodes a season, and like, it's more episodic, and it's a good like return on that, because out of 10 episodes, I would say there's only 2 weaker ones maybe, and the others are all pretty strong. So it's a good sort of batting average, I guess.
Nice. And, I like the analogy.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they've been trying all sorts this season. Of course, they had a musical episode, which was the first Trek.
Okay.
So that's worth checking out. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, they try all sorts of like gimmick style episodes. So yeah, Strange New Worlds is very good.
Where does it stream? What streamer or channel is it on?
It's on Paramount Plus. So,
okay, yeah. Paramount Plus. Got it.
And I mean, Voyager, just going back to that, is on either Netflix or Paramount Plus. So that's on both for the time being. So places to see that. So my next show, sticking with the sci-fi, and this is a bit of a favourite of mine, doing a rewatch at the moment, and that is Fringe. So, very nice.
Joshua Jackson, yeah.
Yeah. He's staring at you.
Yes, he is. Yes,
He's a good actor.
Brooding eyes.
I like him a lot.
And it's a great cast. And there's some eye candy for the boys as well, front and center.
Perfect. We all need some eye candy.
We're all getting treats tonight. But yeah.
How many seasons of Fringe are there altogether?
There's 5.
5. Okay.
I've heard of it. I've just never watched it.
My mom was obsessed with Fringe. Loved Fringe. Like, favorite show ever.
Yeah. So it's very good. It's so it's sort of like, in a way, a more modern X-Files. It's a similar sort of premise, and you get like this FBI division, and it starts off with this agent, Olivia Dunman, who's like the lead of the show, and they get this weird sort of case in the first episode, which she investigates with her partner at the time. Well, FBI agent, but she's also seeing him. And he dies in mysterious circumstances. And for the purpose of solving the case, she contacts this character of Peter Bishop, who's Joshua Jackson, who has a connection to his father, Walter, who he hasn't spoken to in years, who's in a mental institute. So, but he potentially has like information they can use for the case. But it's the whole thing of she has to go through the son because she has to talk him into getting the father out because they need a family member. And one thing leads to the other. They get him out, they investigate that case, and they set up a whole division called Fringe. And so it starts off quite similar to X-Files, where obviously most weeks it's a different case. And what they do is they build the mythology from there, and they build the ideas, they build up the characters. So with Walter, who's like kind of the mad scientist of the show, you find out more about his past. He has a very dark past, actually, at times. So it's actually credit to the writer and the actor that you engage with his character so much. And like, in a way, he goes on a whole redemption type story. But he's a very unique character, like very well played by John Noble. He has his little quirks, like how he calls like the FBI agent Astrid. He calls her by the wrong name every time. So that's like a running joke. Like he'll call her Astro sort of thing, and there's different names. And then they continue that later on because there's this character introduced and his name's Lincoln. And so he calls him Kennedy.
That's funny.
And he just has his little quirks, like he always insists on like eating like red licorice sort of in the lab. And he has this stuff where he'll just play a record for a certain, just to help him work and things like that. And the record provokes certain memories. So that's your team. You get the team set up, and you slowly find out more about the past. You find out more about the experiments being done at Massive Dynamic, which is this massive sort of tech company in the show. And you find out more about Walter's past and his involvement. And it turns out as it goes along, Olivia, the main character, has a past which is linked to that. And it's just a very consistent, compelling show. I think for like high concept sci-fi procedural, but which is really character driven, it's one of the best and most consistent. Great performances, emotional scenes at the times you really care about the characters, which really helps because they really go high on the concepts. But so if you're not quite into that, I think the fact that you'll get on board with the characters really help. But it's one of those where it's one of the best for really committing to like kind of premises like time travel and scientific style premises, and it feels really satisfying the way it does it. And obviously there's some good like freak of the week style moments, some good gross out style moments. So yeah. Very well.
Where is that, Keith? Is that on Amazon Prime or where is Fringe? Where can we watch it?
That's a good question, because in the UK I'm watching it on Now TV, which is like Sky's catch-up service. Because
Okay.
they've got all the sets. I think it used to be on like Amazon or one of those services, but they might have taken it off, so you might have to track it down. But there's so many. Oh, it might be on Disney actually, because they might own it through Fox or something. Does that sound? They might.
That could be. I remember seeing it somewhere, and I've watched probably the first 4 episodes, and I just never got back to it. But I liked it. I was into it. Just so many shows, so little time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm doing this rewatch. Yeah, I've nearly finished. We're on the final season now, the X-Files. But I'll just mention that because I am rewatching it. I'm always rewatching X-Files. It seems. But the difference this time is I'm sort of watching it with my mum for the first time, so that's nice.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I think she'd been exposed to it a little bit with me growing up because I had it on a lot, but like she'd never really sat down to really watch it that much.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of watching it alongside a podcast who are reviewing it, so yeah, we're just watching a couple a week and she's watching it with me, and yeah, so we're on season 1, so
Did they reboot the X-Files? Is there a reboot for that?
Yeah, it didn't go down too well.
Okay. Did you watch it and not love it?
No, like especially the first season back. The second season back was better, and I think felt a little bit more like the X-Files, but like overall, yeah, it wasn't great. And of course, they got me excited because Lauren Ambrose appeared in it, and
now you're talking.
Yeah, her and another agent, and they teased that there was going to be a backdoor like thing with them as the new agents, but it never happened. So I think because Lauren Ambrose wanted to do more stage acting or something, I think because she's done some. I think that was why.
She's been on Broadway quite a bit.
Yeah. So that was a shame that didn't happen. But yeah, obviously,
she can sing. She's a good singer.
Huh. God, they should ever be singing on Yellowjackets. Why haven't we had van karaoke night? God, we should bring that up.
yeah, we'll have to pester like the writers and that to make that happen. But
yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah, I would like to see that. Yeah, I mean, she was back in the day one of my favorites on 6 Feet Under.
6 Feet Under. Emily, I know you haven't finished it yet, but I will stand by my assessment that was one of the best series finales ever.
I agree.
I'll get back to it eventually. It's just like not high on my priority list right now.
Yeah. And I feel like it starts a little slow and takes a little time to build too. So, and it is a little dated at this point, but still worth it.
Yeah, it still holds up. Like I rewatched it last year, and actually that's something we're going to be reviewing soon on my channel. So that's a thing too.
Nice.
And my co-host has never seen it and doesn't know much about it, so
that'll be fun.
I think those reviews are some of the best, where you've got a diehard and then someone who's a casual doesn't really know. So
definitely reactions are great.
So for something a bit lighter, and this is a first time watch, but I've been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, okay.
There you go, there's the picture. I don't know if you guys seen this, or
I've never actually. I mean, I know what it is, but I've never watched.
I started watching it when it first came out, and it just kind of like fell off my radar. But I remember it being pretty funny.
Yeah, so it's a couple of the writers from like Parks and Rec and also the US Office. So it's kind of in that mold, but set at a police station, and these again, a somber mix of characters. Very sort of quirky humor, very like pop culture smart, like lots of references to movies and TV shows. Like the lead character is sort of obsessed with Die Hard, so that becomes a thing. And No, it's very good. I mean, it's one of those I've been meaning to get to, and it always seemed like it would just be my niche of show, and I'm really enjoying it. I think the casting is very good, and it's one of
I
those
like Andy
where,
Samberg.
He's funny.
Yeah. And Terry
and
Crews.
I mean, that's hilarious because he's sending up his sort of macho style persona.
Yeah.
He's very funny, and a nice in gag with him is that his like twins are called Cagney and Lacey, which is really funny.
That is funny.
But quite wacky, lots of good hijinks. And I know along the way they do deal with real issues as well. And I think they, so far from what I've seen, they deal with them quite well, because the captain of the Princeton, he's like a black gay cop. So that kind of issue comes up about how he had to like rise through the ranks, and how it wasn't easy, and I think the way they handle it is so good, because you'll get like a brief moment where it's like, yeah, this is a bit awkward, but then they'll just make a funny joke out of it. And like, he's such an empowering character, like they don't really linger on it too much. So I think it's really well done. And I think because you've got this really good cast of characters, they'll swap them through in episodes where you'll get different pairings in different episodes, and that sort of keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
And like, I'm on to season 3 at the moment, so I'm just starting that. So I think from what I hear, this is the peak of the show. And another thing I like about it is, although it's a very modern show and very funny, like for a modern comedy, it's not afraid to go back to some of the old school sitcom like things. Like, they do have a couple of really fun will they won't they style storylines and pairings, and I like that, because I think there's still room for that sort of thing in comedy, even though we have like moved on. Rosa is my favorite character just because of her deadpan sarky delivery. I think she's very entertaining, so Rosa is probably my pick. But very, very good characters. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And I'll just mention briefly, speaking of sarky deadpan characters, because I'm doing a casual Doria rewatch as well. So that fits into what I'm saying. And again, I make no apologies. Like, I grew up on this, and I know a lot of people, because like that sort of adult animated sitcom has come a long way now, but to me, Doria is still a classic. It's still one of my favorite shows. It's always entertaining to watch, and I quite like the fact that they seem to have the same meal every night. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Consistency, right?
They're just saving money. It was tough back then.
Yep.
But no.
The 90s. And we should note that Daria was, of course, mentioned on Yellowjackets by Shauna Sadecki. So we've got that nice little tie-in in the Yellowjackets verse. So quality 90s show. Yeah.
Yeah, Daria, I think, was ahead of its time as well in many ways. I'm also watching this new drama, which is on the BBC, which is called The Woman in the Wall. And
haven't heard of that.
So, no, it's a new one. I mean, it might not have made it over to the States yet, but so it's got Ruth Wilson, who was in like Luther and The Affair. You might have seen her pop up in a few things.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, she's really good. But so the story is, it's 3 episodes in at the moment, and the story is that it's based on these girls who had like really traumatic experience in like a Catholic home like many years ago, and we pick up with them as adults, and we follow like the one in particular, the Ruth Wilson character, and she is kind of suppressing a lot from there, and we start seeing her memories, things from her point of view, and that's kind of how it's revealed what exactly happened all those years ago. But what happens is, like, the head priest of the place, he's killed one day, so it becomes like a mystery of who killed him, and she's potentially one of the suspects because she's like sleepwalks and is like very erratic, but that's kind of the way the drama plays out, is that slowly you learn more through her like memories and flashbacks, and so it's quite psychological in that way. It's a bit of a slow burn, but I think it is worth like sticking with. Like, I think you have to get used to like what they're doing. She's very good. She's always very like captivating. It's a bit weird because she's doing an Irish accent, and I've never heard her do an Irish accent before. And I think she's doing an okay job, but it's also that thing of, yeah, I just know you're Ruth Wilson. I know you don't do Irish.
You're not Irish.
No, it's just a bit distracting, but one-off series on the BBC, there's not going to be many episodes. There's a little bit of humour in there, which I appreciate. You also get like the investigation as well. You got this like younger up-and-coming police guy who comes in, and then you've got the older like grizzled one, and he's grown up in the town and knows these women, and he is very protective of what's going on, and it's like kind of telling the younger guy not to go in all guns blazing, not to upset the apple cart. So it's that sort of thing where you're not quite sure if he knows something and he's trying to cover up, or if he's just protecting the women. So the younger guy, who also has a little bit of a past himself, he's trying to push it as well. Like he's really going full focus on the case type thing. So you've got quite a nice dynamic with those two cops as well. So
nice.
So far, I'd say worth a look, solid enough.
Okay. Limited series are always nice because it's a minimal time investment where you don't have to get caught up in like 5 seasons or something. Like one easy season, get it done, boom.
The Woman in the Wall, which is 3 episodes in. So it's showing weekly on the BBC, and then they go up one by one on the iPlayer, which is like the catch-up service for the BBC. So it's 3 episodes in. So the first 3 will be up there now. So
nice.
Horror of Doris Roach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Empanadas, baby. Empanadas. And cannibalism.
Hell yeah. You can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
It's the magic ingredients. No, this was very good. It's again, we've got another 6 Feet Under link, because the actress who played Vanessa in 6 Feet Under is the lead in this, who is a wonderful actress.
She's good.
So I'll just give the setup. The setup is then you have the title character has been missing and assumed dead for years. So they're putting on like a play about her life. And she randomly shows up in the dressing room of the woman who's playing her and confronts her. And then from there, that becomes the narration for the whole series. She starts telling the story of what happened to her in the past. So without going into too many spoilers, she ends up staying like below this sort of food place run by a guy she knows from her past. And she's also recently got out of prison. Like, she took the fall for her ex-boyfriend, so she's trying to track him down, find out what the hell happened with that. And it becomes a whole thing where she's known as having like magical hands. So she starts massaging guys. And again, I can't say too much without going into spoilers, but deadly things start to happen, and they get in over their head more and more. And the more they get in over the head, the more fun the show gets, really. Like the more farcical it gets, the more fun the show gets, the more engrossing it gets. You've got a really good lead performance. Cyndi Lauper's even in it, which I actually pop for. She plays a private detective in a couple of episodes, so that was really good. Great to see her. Also, K. Todd Freeman, who was on Buffy years ago, who I haven't seen for ages. He was Mr. Trick the Vampire in Buffy. He has a role in it in a few episodes. So good to see him, and it's good. Like it sort of ticked a lot of my niches. Like it's a good black comedy, good like thriller, character drama. I think my only thing is like 10 episodes. I felt it could have been a bit longer, or maybe the episodes could have been a bit longer, because like each episode is sort of like 35 minutes, something like that in that area. I think some were a bit longer, but I think sometimes, yeah, you either give them more episodes or you make the episodes a bit longer. But that's my only nitpick. Apart from that, I had a really good time with it.
I liked it. It's based on a podcast too, which is interesting. A fictional podcast, which is kind of a fun concept.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it, yeah. Okay.
You'd like it, Emily. You'd like it.
Yeah. It sounds
it's only it's only 10 episodes, and the episodes are quite short, so it's an easy watch. Yeah.
Where do you watch it at?
It's on Amazon.
Okay,
Amazon
that's what I thought.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, worth checking out. And well, I think that's mostly it for TV. I mean, Shelter I am reviewing, so I won't say too much about Shelter, but there you go. So yeah, I'm 4 episodes in. I'm very mixed on it. It's not quite grabbing me like I would hope. I think some of it just isn't my bag, like some of the supernatural or fantasy stuff, because I'm not really a big fantasy guy.
Right.
So I think some bits of it just feel a bit cheesy, and some of the effects look a bit cheesy. But yeah, so I'm mixed on it. Like, I don't outright hate it. You know, I quite like the cast. I think the trio of teens are good.
They are, yep.
Kirsten Stewart, I really like. She's always great. There's some good humor with her character. So yeah, no, there's certainly bits of it that I do like, but I am very mixed on it. Like, it's not. I think some scenes need to be shorter as well. I think some scenes drag on a bit too much. So
I can see that. As you know, I reviewed this from one of my Watch This Wednesdays, watchthiswednesday.com. Check out all of my picks. But I don't mind it. You know, my kids really like it too. There's definitely a lot of swearing, but I think the fantasy part definitely plays well, maybe for a younger audience. So I totally see your point. And I do think it makes sense about some of it being cheesy and, you know, a little over the top at times. But hey, I'll take any show that my kids will watch with me. So
yeah.
But you're right. The trio of teens, they really do work very well together. Yeah, it's being released weekly. So of course we don't know what happens yet. So who knows? Maybe it will also, you know, get a little better as it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think with it at times it doesn't quite know what it wants to be, because there's times where it feels like it's going for a Stranger Things vibe, and then there's times where it's kind of going for a murder mystery vibe, or it's going for more of a teen drama vibe. I think at times it doesn't quite know what it wants to be, but
yeah,
one thing
it's having an identity crisis.
Yeah. One thing I wonder is, because it's a trilogy of novels with that same character, Mickey. So I'm wondering if this series will be a complete story, or if there will be some tie over into another season. I'm not sure.
So most of Harlan Coben's series are all limited series on Netflix. The names of some of his others are escaping me. I think The Stranger is one of them. There's some others. They're pretty good. But from what I was reading about this, it does seem like it will continue, because it's not labeled a limited series and it is a trilogy. Okay. So I think it says season 1 on it, which makes me think that there will be more seasons, but I'm not 100% sure. Just my take.
Yeah, and I guess they're hoping it'll do well enough where you can continue it, but
or it gets canceled.
Yeah. But because there's so much happening in it, I sort of wondered if maybe it, like, that carries over into like another book, or in this case another series. probably come back to my films at the end and round up with that. So if you want to go on your TV stuff.
Sure, I will go right ahead. As I said, I do weekly recommendations at watchthiswednesday.com, and I pick a show and feature it. So some of these I've kind of talked about before, but the most recent one I watched that I am obsessed with is Dark on Netflix. I've been talking about it everywhere. I am obsessed. There are 3 seasons. It started back in 2018. It involves time travel. It's also a German show. I personally watched it in English with the dubbing, but I've heard it's better to actually watch in German with the English subtitles. So I'm going to do that when I rewatch it. But this show has challenged my conventions on time, our existence, and it's really made me think about time as a concept. And I love the characters in this. I think it just works really well. It's a show that you cannot be scrolling on your phone and watching at the same time. I actually took notes like with a paper and pen, and I used Netflix online guide that has a family tree and that kind of guides you through who's who, because there's different timelines going on. But I can't say enough good things about Dark on Netflix. If you're into sci-fi stuff, it's also a drama, thriller, mystery, but there's definitely that sci-fi element. I'm not even a huge sci-fi person, but this show it did something to me. It was all I could think about when I stopped watching it, and I'm still thinking about it so much that I plan to rewatch it with a new perspective. So highly recommend that. And along those lines, speaking of German shows, there's actually a new one on Netflix that just dropped yesterday called Dear Child. It's another German show. This one's a limited series, so there's only 6 episodes. Again, minimal time investment. It's a psychological thriller involving a woman who escapes captivity. And apparently she went missing 13 years earlier, and it delves into who she is, where she was that entire time. Very dark. I'm, I think, 3 or 4 episodes into the 6, and I'm curious to see how it ends. Maybe it's a little bit slow, and it's not on the same level for me as Dark is, but it's an easy dark watch. So that's one of the things that I'm currently watching. Impulse is another one. This one was a YouTube originals, and it features Sarah Desjardins from Yellowjackets, of course, who plays Callie. And it also has a weird element to it. It's teleportation. So I guess I'm on a sci-fi kick officially. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. My friend Shift, our friend of the podcast, Good Morning Mayberry, recommended this one. So I dove right in. It's very character driven. It is a drama. And like Shelter, there's a trio of teenagers kind of working together to address this strange power that the main character, Henry, has. And I'm not sure yet where it's going, but I'm into it. So this is one that I'm continually watching. There's only 2 seasons. It got canceled. As you mentioned on Twitter, Keith, YouTube Originals was a pretty short-lived concept. And something I didn't know was that Cobra Kai actually started out as a YouTube Originals before it got to Netflix. So I learned that from you. Thank you. I think that's interesting. But yeah, Impulse. It's another good one. Pretty easy watch. Let's see. What else do I have? I've got Justified, another older show. I'm watching this one with my husband. It features Timothy Olyphant, who I love from Deadwood. And he's also the one in the Santa Clarita Diet, right? Is he Drew Barrymore's husband? Okay. I did not finish Santa Clarita Diet, but I do love Timothy Olyphant. Another one. Don't mind watching him on TV.
He was in a really good, like, kind of like horror movie back in like the early like 2010s called The Crazies. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Ooh, I haven't.
It's like something happens, like something gets into the water supply, and it like ends up like making everybody go crazy. And it's interesting. It's something that could like it's creepy because like it's something that you could imagine happening, which is why it's scary.
I'll have to put that on my list.
Sounds good.
Also, there's a link back to the Scream movies because he was in Scream too. So
that's right. right. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay.
the psycho
Sure was.
film student.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just kind of randomly started watching Justified, and I'm actually not sure how many seasons there are. I do know that it's also been rebooted, so there's a newer iteration of it. But essentially, Timothy Oliphant is a U.S. Marshal, and he does some pretty questionable things, some of which seems justified, hence the name of the show. So I think we're only halfway through season 1, so I don't have a lot on it, but I'm enjoying it. I find myself not scrolling on my phone, which is always an indicator of actually enjoying a show. So, so far so good with Justified. Have either one of you guys watched Justified or the newer one?
No.
No.
But I'm pretty sure my dad has.
Okay.
No, I think I want to. Like, I mean, you mentioned Deadwood. I recently watched Deadwood, which is a fantastic show. And
great show, but the movie sucked. Just saying, didn't.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know. I like the show a lot better than the movie. My personal preference.
Well, that's fair, but the movie had a very difficult task because it had to tie everything up.
I'm gonna keep watching it. Pretty good so far. Something I'm rewatching for myself that I'm watching with my family is Person of Interest. Keith, I know that's one you've watched. It's got Michael Emerson, Jim Caviezel, Taraji P. Henson is in the early seasons, and it has, I guess, kind of a sci-fi aspect to it, given the show's about a mysterious machine that generates a number, and Jim Caviezel and Michael Emerson take the number, and this person's either going to get murdered or hurt, or is going to be the person murdering or hurting somebody. So they kind of try to solve that puzzle in each episode with overarching themes of this machine and some other police shenanigans and whatnot. But it's good. I watched it years ago and it still holds up. Jim Caviezel, another one. Enjoy watching him. So we see a theme here with some of my shows, clearly. And then Emily, like you said earlier, I was also watching The Bear. I'm watching Only Murders in the Building. Keith, I'm watching Shelter weekly. And things on my radar for this month, however, The Changeling just dropped on Apple TV yesterday, and I am very excited. Watch the trailer.
I'm gonna watch the free episode that I get through my iPhone and see what I think.
Nice. Yes. Let me know if you think you're going to commit to it. Maybe we can work out a password thing. But it looks good. It's based on a book, and it is a dark fairy tale. So I believe they have 2, maybe 3 episodes up now, and then it will drop weekly. So I know that that's going to go on my watch list. And another show that just dropped yesterday, Virgin River season 5 on Netflix. And I love Alexandra Breckenridge. She was, of course, on the first season of American Horror Story.
Yes.
And I loved her in that. Now, Virgin River centers upon her character who moves to this quaint mountain town. She comes in to assist the doctor there. She's the nurse of this small town. And of course, she meets a love interest, Jack. Don't mind looking at him either. Season 5, of course, he's pictured here with the baby. So spoiler alert, they do end up getting together. And although we've not seen the baby yet this season, I surmise it will be coming. I will say that they did drop the whole season. I've just not had time to watch it because overwhelmed with TV shows, you guys, like so many TV shows.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. Yeah. First world problems over here. But yeah, so one more on my radar, Wilderness, which is coming to Amazon Prime, I believe September 20th. It's another kind of dark psychological thriller mystery type show. It looks really good. I plan to cover it and watch this Wednesday. So
the guy in that picture looks like the guy that played in The Haunting of Hill House. Like he played the brother that had like the drug problem.
He does look like that. And you know what? I can't think of his name because I believe he was also in Surface on Apple TV.
He was also in The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss.
I have not watched that. I love Elizabeth.
It's good.
Moss,
it's
very good film.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to check that one out. But I think that covers everything I've been watching. But my favorite of all these, you guys, again, I'm just going to say it one more time. dark on Netflix. It has challenged my conventions on time and existence, and it's a very smart show. The writers have to be incredibly smart people to have navigated through what they went through to create it. So I just give props to them, and it's exceptional. I love it.
Cool. That's what I thought. So
one more thing. I did see a movie last month that I remembered while we were talking. I went and saw Disney's Haunted Mansion with my kids. I wanted to see the Barbie movie, but I still haven't seen it. But Haunted Mansion.
I saw Barbie.
Did you love it?
It was good, yeah. I thought it would be different than it was, but Ryan Gosling was great.
He looks like he's going to be great as Ken. Yeah. I can't wait to watch it. And Haunted Mansion was okay. I mean, my kids loved it. So again, anytime my kids like something, I take it as a win. I was entertained. It was a little bit cheesy, but it was cute. It was cute. It was good for the kids, and I stayed entertained enough. So no complaints.
Pretty good cast as well.
Yes. Yeah, good cast. And it was pretty quick. It wasn't too long, which I always appreciate in a movie, especially in the theater. So
yeah,
same.
Would you say it's better than the 2003 film? Because that was pretty bad. I remember.
I did not see it.
Oh, you're not seeing
I
it.
do not have a point of comparison. I feel as though I'm lacking in my movie watching in general, and need to step it up because 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh, I didn't see that movie. But I have seen a lot of shows, so.
Yeah,
there we are.
Cool.
Yes.
So just going back to Person of Interest, have you finished it on the rewatch, or are you still watching it?
Not yet. I believe we're mid-season 2 right now. So yeah, we've not gotten to some of the other characters that we see a little later on, but I am just as compelled the second time around as I was the first time because I just love the concept.
Yeah, and a bit like I was saying with Fringe earlier, it only gets better the more it builds on that concept and the characters. And
it does, yes.
Root is personally my favourite character of the show, so her introduction and everything she does is
love Root.
Amazing. She's a game changer, really. Great.
She's great.
Hero. And
then Sarah Shahi, is that her name? The other female character that comes along. I feel like that's not her name, but it's something similar. But she's a great character too. I love her.
Yeah, their whole thing. Season 3 is personally my favorite. Season 4 has my favorite episode of the whole show, but I won't mention it because you're not quite there yet. But we can talk another time. But it's got a very good finale as well, and I definitely have a question for you about the finale when you get there. So that's
all right.
Cool.
Yeah. Tweet me all about it. Oh, I mean, X me all about it when the time comes.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm never getting used to that new name.
No. It'll always be Twitter to me.
Forever.
Yeah. Fuck that X shit. No thanks. Stupid. Whatever, Elon.
I'll mention some films. I might as well mention Barbie because it was mentioned there. So I have seen that and Oppenheimer. I didn't do the double bill. I went separately. I actually got in for free to see Oppenheimer, so that was the result. And
bonus.
That's because I do a monthly film quiz at the cinema, and my team won, so you get a free ticket. So that was one of the perks of that. So I used it for Oppenheimer. I saw it in the 35mm, which is, of course, how Nolan intended it. So it's a good film. Like, I'm a pretty big Nolan fan. I don't like all of his films. Like Tenet, I thought was pretty boring. I've got to say, I was underwhelmed by Tenet, but this was much better. Like, it was very gripping throughout. You've got a great cast, and it's an interesting, complex moment in history. And I think the film really comes into its own after the event itself, where you have all these hearings and interrogations about like the whole idea of the bomb and was it wise to like create it in the first place? How much blame can be attached to the main character itself? a lot of the politics behind it, and watching those scenes, it's almost like watching like a very sort of engrossing like courtroom scene, or like watching a stage play. And it's very well done. My only thing, I mean, I think my big thing with it, which is a problem with Nolan films in general, is he doesn't know how to write women, and it is one of his big like oversights throughout his films. You can go back and there is a pattern. His films are pretty much all white, masculine, middle-class guys, and this film is, of course, full of them. You know, you can't escape from like white, middle-aged, masculine guys.
Did he do Inception?
Yeah.
Was that him? Yeah.
Yes. And he did, like,
I really like that one a lot.
That was good. I did see that.
Yeah. And I think that's partly why I wasn't so keen on Tenet, because that felt like him trying to recapture Inception, and it didn't really work. But yeah, no, he's a very good director, but it's like, this is a problem with him. Like, I think the way the females are portrayed in this film just isn't great. You know, a lot of stereotypical like things around them. Like Florence Pugh, especially, like the way her character is treated, it isn't great. So
yeah,
I think that is a takeaway. You know, you can't really like not mention that as a critique, because you know we're in 2023. He's a major director. I saw Barbie, obviously, which was a different sort of film, but a fun film. I thought it was very. It was good. Yeah, very colourful and enjoyable and feel good. And there were times where the jokes were a little too clever for their own good. Like, there was times where you could see that it was written by 40-something arty types. So some of the jokes were a bit too clever, but it was a fun experience. Like, it was fun.
It was good. I liked it.
I'll just round up with a few things. I highly recommend an Australian horror movie called Talk to Me, which came out recently. That's getting a lot of buzz.
Is that the one where they have like the hand in the middle of the room?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. I've seen it. It looks really creepy.
Yeah, it's very well done. I think it gets into modern themes to do with mental health, and the lead actress is very good. So you definitely go on a grueling ride on that one. I watched a really cheesy, bad 70s film, Meat Cleaver Massacre, which the title is the best thing about it. Now, me and my partner, we've recently done our worst horror movie list, so it appears on that, and that's going up soon, so you can hear me talk more about it. But one thing I'll just mention is that it's got Christopher Lee in it, in the cast list, but then I didn't see him in the film, so I went back and checked like Wiki, and it turns out he's only in it in a monologue at the start and the end. And the funny thing is, it's not even a monologue from that film. They've taken the monologue from a different film, and it's just a film that didn't get made or something, so they just lifted it from there. So that's a pretty funny footnote. And okay, I mean, I'll just end and say The Truman Show. The Truman Show is an absolute classic. I rewatched that
Genius.
recently.
Love that movie.
Great.
Ahead of its time. The casting is wonderful. The music is beautiful. It's so satirical and witty. It's emotional. It has one of the best endings of any film in cinema. Like, I'm right on the edge of my seat. Ed Harris is so good in that movie. And there's a little personal story to this one, because I recently visited some friends, and my friend's kid, who's like now 16, which seems insane because I knew him when he was like a baby, but like we sat down and we introduced him to The Truman Show. And so there's three of us watching it, and he's doing that 16-year-old kid thing. He's like on his phone all the time. And occasionally he looks up at the screen and he'll laugh at a gag or something like that. And by the end of the movie, he was like really into it. He was really hooked. So That's a
Yeah.
nice personal story.
I recently watched it with my kids, as a matter of fact, and they loved it. They
Really?
don't always have an attention span of all the movies like that aren't kids movies, but they loved it. My son actually put down his phone, paid attention. He was resistant at first, but he watched the whole thing, loved it, actually asked questions during it, which I thought was cool. And it made me really happy that a movie I love so much from years ago is still resonating with my kids. It's a nice payoff. I love it.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah, there's not many films I would say like it's absolutely perfect, but I think that is one, and it's only got better over time. So love the Truman Show. So
agree.
So I think we'll round up, and before we leave, I'll give you guys a chance to plug what you've been up to or where people can find you.
All right, that sounds good. I'll go for that right now. Well, Keith, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it. Obviously, Emily and I love talking about television, given we are always creating content about Yellow Jackets. You can actually find a lot of our exclusive Yellow Jackets content at cordcutting.com/yellowjackets-hive. You can also find our content on our Yellow Jackets Hive socials, our Yellow Jackets Hive YouTube, and also on Cord Cutting's YouTube, which is youtube.com/@cordcutting. And if you like merch and you like Yellow Jackets, you can always shop yellowjacketshiveshop.com. We've got all kinds of cute items. We've got hoodies, we've got shirts, we've got bags. One of our more recent designs, Wish You Were Here, features Javi's hand falling through the ice, which we absolutely love. So yeah, check us out. We love Yellow Jackets, we love TV, and we are here for all of it. So thank you, Keith. We appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, like I've been following their stuff for a while, and they do a fantastic job, and it's definitely a great place if you're into that show to go and discuss everything about it. So great stuff. And
everything
absolutely
about it.
Everything, every little detail. And yeah, we'll definitely do this again in a few months' time or something like that. This is going to become a regular thing. So before I go, I'll just say that the next time I do one of these, my guest will be Alyssa from Horror Movie Tea podcast, and that's someone I've collaborated with a few times as well. So she will be my next guest, which will be for the September episode. But let us know what you guys have been watching in the comments, and let us know what you think of our picks. Like and subscribe as always. Go and sub to their channel because it's really good. And keep watching TV and film. And we'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.
Sounds good. Thanks, Keith.